swinging a high drive into center field. It's at the wall. It is gone. Passan does it again. It's gone. It's into the bullpen. This game is tied.
He swings and rips one to center field. It's high. It's deep. It's back. It's gone. Sale winds. He fires. Swing and a miss. Strike three. It's over. The Red Sox have won the World Championship.
Welcome back to Play Tessie. It's episode 87. If you're listening on drop day, it's June 28th, episode 87. There's never been an 87 in Red Sox history, so hate to break it to you. That's kind of what's going on with these now. We are like nearing the end of having episodes dedicated to players, which great and bad, whatever. But this is the official podcast of silly season in three sports. You got the MLB trade deadline happening. You've got the NBA draft and free agency. You've got NHL free agency trades going down. Like, it's that time of year. This is the official, this is also known as the official Red Sox podcast of WEI. Here with Sammy, here with Joe, who's in for Pat today. Before we get going, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or the Odyssey app, hit the subscribe button and rate us 5 stars. You can check us out on YouTube, subscribe to WEI, and hit the thumbs up on our videos. You can also check us out on the socials at PlayTessie on both Twitter and Instagram. As I said, here with Sammy and Joe. And it's time to talk some trade deadline, guys. It is drop day on June 28th here. So we are nearing that 1 month mark into the trade deadline season. And it's that beautiful time of year where all of the national writers start dropping their articles about what could teams do, what should teams do. And I want to start it off by talking about an article that Jeff Passan dropped in which he acknowledged that the Red Sox are on pace to be buyers if things continue where they're going.
Buyers?
Said that they could be buying. He wrote the article as if they're buyers. He's not writing it as if they were selling. And this came out at the time they were 43-36. They have since lost the game 43-37. But he says their biggest weakness is infield versatility and that the best match for them is Luis Rengifo. I'll read his blurb on the Red Sox for you guys. If you don't have ESPN Plus, you can thank me. He says, to be clear, the Red Sox are not yet committed to adding. They've simply played themselves into a situation where not doing so would be a bad look for an organization that has had too many in recent years. Rengifo, a 27-year-old who doesn't reach free agency until after the 2025 season, would bring versatility. He had played second base and shortstop, both areas of need for the Red Sox, in addition to a dangerous bat. It would be the steady sort of move that improves them now and gives them options going forward. That said, if Boston continues this run and goes into July in full command of a playoff spot, the Red Sox absolutely should be placing a call to the Mets to gauge the possibility of getting Pete Alonso. Even though first baseman Tristan Casas is expected back in early July, the Red Sox have gotten a sub-300 weighted on-base average from the DH position, which, regardless of the size of Masataka Yoshida's contract, is worth addressing via upgrades like the one Alonso would provide. So I think Passan hits the nail on the head there in regards to that DH has not been an area of strength for the Red Sox, whether it be when they've been at their most injured or whether it be with Masataka Yoshida being in there because he really hasn't produced much at all for the Red Sox this season. So I like where his head's at, but I guess I'll start with you, Sammy. When you hear the name Pete Alonso and connected to the Red Sox, where does your head go?
I mean, I just start imagining the lineup with him in it. Can you imagine that? You have what? How would it go? Duran, probably Devers, then Alonso, then you have Casas. That's just, I mean, O'Neill fifth. That's a lot of pop. But honestly, my first thought is that there's like no chance. No chance. I don't think they're going to get Pete Alonso. I would love to be wrong here. I would love for the Red Sox to get Pete Alonso. He's what they need. He's a right-handed bat with power. Good personality, too. Fun guy to market. I'm sure Boston would love him, but he's going to cost a lot. He's a very good player. And I know that Passan said regardless of Yoshida, they should get him, but he's a little bit redundant. DH, we have a DH only guy. He's not that great, but we got one. We also got a first baseman. It's just kind of, To me, it sounds more like a fun thing to talk about rather than something that'll actually happen. And by the way, he's a free agent in 2025. So
Like, this is it. He's a rental.
yeah, I don't see it happening. Not only is he a rental, he's a premium rental. It's going to cost a boatload. So hate to say it, you'd probably have to mortgage the future a little bit. And also you'd be taking a big risk. This doesn't feel like an all-in team. It feels like a team that should add. I like Rengifo a lot more in that case. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Pete Alonso, super exciting. I would be thrilled. I just don't see it.
The thing you have to keep in mind here is that for the Mets to trade the guy, they'd be most likely foregoing the chance to extend him or sign him in free agency. B, if they hold on to him, they're going to get a qualifying offer pick for him if they lose him. So whatever your offer is, it's going to have to beat that. And it's going to have to beat it by a good amount too, because they're foregoing the chance to contend. They've played a lot better since Grimace threw out that first pitch. So they'd be foregoing the chance to contend. They'd be probably foregoing the chance to extend them themselves. Sammy, you and I talked a lot during the offseason about the Red Sox need for a right-handed power bat to go in between Devers and Casas. And obviously the more power, the better. But if I'm being honest with you, Tyler O'Neill has turned into that right-handed power bat. And the Red Sox identity has shifted into this speed, wreak havoc on the base paths. We're going to play better defense than we've played. Like, that's been their identity. So as much as I like Alonso, just is it worth paying the hefty price to get a guy that Mets fans get frustrated with for all of the strikeouts, for the extended slumps? He's a great player. He would make the Red Sox a ton better. He would deepen the lineup. I'm not saying I don't like Alonso, and I would be thrilled if they got him. It's just that I think if you talk about the price tag that it would take to get him, like I'm not would need to trade a big 3 prospect for him. I'm not saying Teal, Anthony is on the table. Like
Campbell, it'd be like Christian Campbell,
right? Exactly, and it would be that as a starting point. Like, you'd have to add more to that. Like, are you doing that? Like, Joe, would you trade Christian Campbell, who a lot of people think is going to be on top 100 lists at the midseason mark? Would you trade him as the headliner of a package to get Alonso, like him plus a couple other top 20 prospects? Would you do that deal?
I mean, for the kind of outlook that Alonso has, considering what you just said about him being a free agent in 2025 and what you might have to offer him for a contract, I say no, it's not worth it, especially if this is a team, as you guys have said, that wants to not mortgage the future and look more at the big picture. I think Sammy said it perfectly, is that most of the positions that the Sox have right now in part of their run are filled. Like, designated hitter, you can still alternate. Like, you still have Rob Refsnyder, you can alternate in the outfield. Tyler O'Neill can get some reps. As long as Yoshida is on the roster, he's going to get those DH spots. And yes, Alonso would be an upgrade. I agree with you guys that it would be fun to have him in the lineup, to have him playing at Fenway Park, but it's only a dream scenario. I think if the Mets do turn this thing around, you know, you can look at Grimace as the reason why, but on the field, it's going to be because of Pete Alonso. So I don't see them getting rid of him.
Yeah. As far as a fit for the Red Sox, Gordo, you said that Tyler O'Neill has kind of turned into that right-handed bat in the 3-hole between, supposed to be between Devers and Casas. I get it, but I think he's still not ideal. I like him more in like a 6-7 spot in the lineup because he strikes out so much. He's a big strikeout guy. And
so does Alonso.
And it's the same thing with Alonso. So I just don't see it being a fit. I feel like if they go for a right-handed bat, if you really want to go crazy, I'd rather go for like Vlad Jr. He doesn't strike out as much. I actually think he's got a pretty low K rate. He's a big power hitting guy, and those guys generally strike out a lot, but Vlad's a little bit different in that regard. I just think Alonso, again, he's redundant. You got power hitters, you've got a first baseman, you already got the strikeout issue. If Trevor Story comes back next year, he's a good player, but he also strikes out a ton. I just don't see the fit. That said, if it happened, I'd be thrilled. That would be so much fun. That would be exciting. So, I'm kind of neutral, I guess, in that way, because I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it makes sense. But if it did happen, oh my God, we would have so much fun.
I will say with the caveat, if that were to happen, if they were actually to go out and get Pete Alonso, there you would have to extend him. There would be, in my opinion, no coming back from trading for Pete Alonso and not signing him to an extension. Because even if the Red Sox are buyers at the deadline, like you can be a buyer at the deadline, make moves to make your team better, and still be satisfied with your season without winning the World Series. If the Red Sox make the playoffs, to me, that's a satisfactory season. But to me, if you make an all-in, big-time buy now move on a rental, like you better either have World Series aspirations or you better be in a position to extend the guy. So that would be a big nuts on the table move from the Red Sox. But to me, my evaluation of it wouldn't be complete until after we see what his free agency looks like.
Yeah, and that's why I think, like I said earlier, Rengifo, the other guy that Jeff Passan mentioned, I think he makes a lot more sense. It's not as sexy of a move. You want to move on to Rengifo and just officially start talking about him?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Rengifo, there's a few reasons I like him. One, you get an extra year of control. He'd be here for 2025. Two, he plays all over the field, third base. First, I believe he's played some first. If you play third, you can probably play first. Second base, maybe an emergency shortstop. They're not really looking for that. A little bit of left field as well. Switch hitter, and he crushes lefties. So, Gordo, you have the stat. You get to you in 1 second, but that's what the Red Sox need. They need a switch hitter who plays all over the field, who can crush lefties. Got good speed too. The defense is fine. That team control checks all the boxes. Not as exciting as acquiring Pete Alonso. Makes a hell of a lot more sense, and it's not a rental either. You get him for 2025, like I said. So Rengifo, out of the handful of players that the Red Sox might be looking at, he is, for me, quite close to the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I almost feel like a fucking idiot saying it, but I would be way higher on a Luis Rengifo move in comparison to Pete Alonso. I'll pull up those lefty stats. This season, he has 52 plate appearances against lefties. He's hitting .388 with a .974 OPS. He's a guy who's got 20-plus steals already this season, so he fits right in with the Red Sox model of let's get you on base and let's get you running. And we're going to play with versatility. We're going to move guys all across the diamond. He can do all of that stuff too. A good bat to have in the lineup. As of yesterday, he's at 20 stolen bases right now.
Wow. Okay. So I thought he was fast. I didn't realize he was fast. So that's even better. Yeah. I mean, that could a guy possibly fit better than that with the Red Sox right now?
Yeah. And here's the thing for me, honestly, maybe the biggest thing for me here, the Red Sox do need middle infield help right now. I know that we have gotten good production from David Hamilton. Enmanuel Valdez has shown some good. He's played well at times, but I don't think you can trust him defensively, and I don't think the bat is consistent enough to be worth the defensive downside there. You could use some middle infield help. You don't know what you're going to get from Vaughn Grissom. So Rengifo fits perfectly. I love a switch hitter. And to me, the path here, you get the guy, you play out the string, you go for it, and then in the offseason, if you decide that your middle infield is going to have some combination of Trevor Story, Marcelo Meyer, Vaughn Grissom, well, guess what? Luis Rengifo's got an extra year of control. You can just trade him and get back some of the value you traded to get him. Obviously, you're not going to net the entire thing back, but let's be real here. The Red Sox have so many prospects that are going to become Rule 5 eligible. They're not going to be able to keep all these guys. You got to go in somewhere. You make this trade, and then you trade them for low A-ball guys or A-ball guys that are not Rule 5 eligible for a couple of years. It makes all the sense in the world. He fits perfectly to me.
Yeah, it's a low risk, high reward kind of deal that the Sox could make. And I think we're all in agreement that this is the better move to make, maybe over Alonso, or I should say more realistic move to make. The only thing I'm wondering is, as you guys said, he's versatile. He can play everywhere. But let's look at when this team is healthy, these positions. So your outfield is Duran. You have Abreu. In center, you're hoping it's Rafaela. And, interchanging like that. Your infield, Devers is at third. Shortstop could be Hamilton. It could be Rengifo if you acquire him. Second base, Valdez or Grissom. First is Casas. So the thing I'm thinking of is there room for him? Because I think if he is acquired, we would automatically say, at least for this year, he's your starting second baseman. He's going to be in your middle infield some way, somehow. But you're also taking away from what David Hamilton has done a little bit, taking away a little bit from Valdez, a little bit from Romy Gonzalez. And then also, if you look big picture, if he does play well for you, this was a team that decided, hey, Vaughn Grissom is 23. He's going to be our guy for the future. And then all of a sudden you just give up on him for Rengifo. It's just, those are some of the tough questions that are going to have to be answered and asked.
Well, I think you bring up a lot of good points, Joe. Two things. First, I think that all those positions you mentioned is why he does fit. He's not going to play every day. If he's with the Red Sox, I'd say probably 2 out of every 3 games he'd probably play.
I think he'd play every day. Dude, he's good.
All right.
What's
we'll
OPS
see.
for the year?
What would be second base against lefties? Pretty positive he'd play. Third base, sometimes give Devers a day off, give him a DH. I would even DH Rengifo. I'd rather him than Yoshida. I know people still like Yoshida. Rengifo does a lot more for me. Play outfield, I believe, a little bit of left field. You probably don't need him there. You got plenty of outfielders. First base, he plays a little bit of. Like, he's not a big guy, so he's not ideal for that spot. But, like, I think you move him in and out. Cora is, like, the best at that. That's, like, the perfect Cora kind of guy. He fits. I think he'd fit. He'd probably see a little bit of reduced play time, but I'm sure, like, that's a fair trade-off for a guy who's playing for the fucking Angels to play a little bit less to be on a team that's actually fighting for a playoff spot. I want to ask you guys, you both mentioned Vaughn Grissom, and this conversation needs the context that Vaughn Grissom was in the Chris Sale trade. He was the main piece coming to Boston in the trade, and he is looked at as a 23-year-old kid who is supposed to have a bright future. The Braves were teaching him left field just to get his bat in their lineup prior to the trade. So it's not just the Red Sox that like him. It's also the Braves. So if you're a doubter in the Red Sox analysts, the Braves like him too. I don't think anyone's doubting them. Would you guys trade Vaughn Grissom with, I believe, 5 more years of control after this year for Luis Rengifo? And I'm not saying 1 for 1. I'm saying those are the 2 big pieces. Maybe the Red Sox add a little bit more. Maybe the Angels throw in money, a prospect, a bad whatever. In a vacuum, what do you think about that swap?
That's so difficult because if, like, Red Sox fans listening to this, they're gonna look to what they've seen from Vaughn Grissom, and probably a lot of them would say yes. The issue here, if you get Rengifo, that kind of blocks Vaughn Grissom from having close to any role on this team. Maybe they have some lineups against lefties where they try to get in as many righties as possible. But if Vaughn Grissom's going to be an only against lefties guy, I think I would rather him get the everyday at bats just to get him going in AAA. You know, he's obviously coming off the illness, coming off multiple hamstring injuries, coming off a lot of injuries. Like, you got to get him going. That would I make that? I want to say no. I think I still believe too much in Vaughn Grissom moving forward. The 5 years you have left of him, he's hit at every level. There's nothing he could still hit this year.
Does Hamilton change your mind at all? Does David Hamilton becoming a really good player and also Valdez playing a little bit better, does that change your mind at all? Because it's not like if Rengifo walks after 2025, you're not left with nothing. You still have 2 guys who you like. Does that change your mind at all?
I don't think it changes my mind in terms of if he walks in 2025, just because the Red Sox have such a depth of middle infield prospects and a lot of them approaching the upper minors. So it doesn't change my thought process in that regard, but it does change my thought process in that they're not desperate to get, they're not as desperate to get a Luis Rengifo, because at least against right-handed pitching, you're covered in the middle infield.
Yeah.
I think I'm hesitant too. I don't think I want to give up on Grissom yet. He's just had so much working against him, injuries and the sickness and losing the weight. Like, he's still a kid. He's still 23, just like we talked about last episode with Bayo. there's still room to grow. There's still some steps to make. I think it's too early, and he's still got a lot of control. I think you would rather take that certainty of having someone who has that potential for 5 years against someone who, at least for 2 years, you're saying to yourself, this guy makes us a playoff team, maybe not a World Series team. And then you just kind of hope with what crew you have when you add Rengifo that they can make the difference. So I say no. I say you got to hold on to Grissom.
Well, what about Nick York? You also got him in AAA.
Okay.
He's on fire.
That's what I was going to go with, Sammy. I was going to say, to me, I'm trying to get the best player I can get, and there's a number of areas you can go with this. Like, it doesn't have to be a middle infielder. You could target starting pitching, though I think the middle infielder will be easier to acquire just because I think the starting pitching options are dwindling. There's a lot of guys getting hurt. There's a lot of teams in contention. The demand is going to be far greater than the supply there. There's going to be a lot of teams that don't get the pitching that they want and need. But to me, I'm getting the best player that fits a need that I can get using that depth of prospects. You mentioned Nick York. That's a perfect example. There's other guys too, like Matthew Lugo's a guy that has had a good year. He struggled a little bit lately in AAA, but overall this year, he's had a great year. He's going to need to be added to the 40-man. There's a lot of guys that either were just added to the 40-man or are going to need to be added to the 40-man soon. I'm trying to deal from that depth, deal like a package of 3 of those guys to get help now. That's cool. And if I can't get a guy with those guys, then I'm just not making the trade.
Yeah.
Do you do it?
List.
Would you trade Grissom?
Grissom for Rengifo, 1 for 1. Yeah.
You would do it?
I think I would, just because like you get Rengifo for 2 years. You know the guy you're getting. By that time, Grissom would have 3 years left. How much better is Grissom going to be than David Hamilton if he's better than David Hamilton? Right? Like, I think it's a much less risky play than it sounds, just because the depth you have. You mentioned Nick York. It's another guy. What if he comes up? You have so many lottery tickets, and on top of having Rengifo for a year and a half, I think it's a worthwhile trade. Also, it's a good message to send to the clubhouse. Like, look, we're trying. Finally, it's the first time in 3 years we're actually not going for it, but we're supplementing. So, yeah, I do it. I wouldn't be thrilled about losing Grissom. I like him. I still think he'll be really good. I hope he's the second baseman of the future. But if you have a chance to get Rengifo in a season like this, when you're hot, the fit legitimately couldn't be better. It could not.
That's what makes it. Yeah, the fit is great, but the trickiness of guys like Hamilton and Grissom is that you don't know. Like, we're just seeing Hamilton hit the ball really well. You don't know if that's sustainable. We're just seeing Grissom start to struggle when he has all this potential. You don't know if he is going to take that leap. There's just so much unknown when it comes to the middle infield. You bring in Rengifo, you do get that certainty, but if the idea is still to not mortgage the future, you can't help but think that these middle infielders that are still there aren't going to, at least they're going to be floated out there. Their names are going to be floated out there. It's just a matter of how committed are they that this is the future of the team, because there are still a bunch of guys, as Gordo mentioned, in the minor leagues, like Marcelo Meyer.
You bring up a really good point. There are a lot of unknowns. 3 guys you mentioned, Grissom, Hamilton, who is the other one? Oh,
Valdez.
York. Oh, and Valdez too. There you go. There's 4 of them. 4 question marks. Why not trade one of those 4 for a proven commodity? And by the way,
you're trading the highest ceiling there, though.
Yeah, you're trading the high ceiling, but you got 4 guys who you could argue have a high ceiling. We'll say 3. I don't think Valdez really has much of a ceiling. He's solid, but different conversation. On top of that, you also have Trevor Story, who's still under contract. He's coming back next year. There's gonna, excuse me, geez, I'll fire it up. There's gonna come a point where there's gonna be a roster crunch. So why not get out ahead of it? Get a guy who's a Swiss Army knife like Rengifo, who fits a need now and in the future. Alleviate a little bit of that logjam, and you still have Hamilton, Valdez, York, Story, Meyer, Rafaela, Castro, Paulino. I could go on. There's a ton of guys in the majors and in the minors, close to the majors, who you could say are part of the future. You could even go further. Cespedes at second base, killing it. Christian Campbell's more of a second baseman than an outfielder. but he's been playing outfield. Like, they have so many middle infield guys, and this is why you draft middle infielders, because of all the positions that exist in baseball. Those guys are generally the most athletic, so they can move around. Why not cash in on that?
Why I feel like the guy in the group that you're talking about that they should kind of look to trade, it's Valdez to me, because obviously Hamilton has hit the ball so well lately, but I still think that on this team he profiles in the future as more of a bench bat, come in, pinch run, can play whenever.
Why would a team give you anything for him, though, if that's how you feel? Because they're probably going to think the same thing. They're going to see who guy who can only hit righties, strikes out a lot, cannot play a lick of defense, and is a slow runner. Well, you're not going to get much.
You're looking at a guy who has shown that he can hit, and he's really inexperienced at the big league level, and has shown at plenty of times that he can hit, and he's made as much as he's struggled, he has made strides defensively. I'm not saying a 1-for-1 thing at all. I'm saying a package of Valdez. Like, if you offered like Valdez and Lugo and Paulino for Rengifo, like, they would say yes.
You think? I don't know, dude. What does Valdez bring? I don't necessarily agree that he can hit. How good is the bat? He's hitting 212. He's got an 84 OPS plus. He strikes out a ton. Can't hit lefties at all.
Yeah, but the batted ball data, he struggled a ton at the beginning of the year, but the batted ball data was pretty good. And
but come on, you're the Angels. Like, if you're the Angels, I come to you like, look, this guy can't play defense at all. He's slow as hell, but the batted ball data is good. It's just not enough. I don't think you're going to get anything. He's like a complimentary piece. I'd rather keep him and have him be a bench bat. I can't get behind the Valdez hype. He's kind of like Yoshida to me. He does one thing well, little bit of pop. That's about it.
I agree. But to be honest with you, the reason I think move him is not, I'm not saying move him because I don't think he's a good player and has no value. I'm just saying that you're already going to have your left-handed middle infield option off the bench in Hamilton. You don't need two of them. You could trade Hamilton instead. Like, that could be the move. And I'm sure you'd be able to get more for Hamilton. So I just think that those guys in York.
You're just like dumping him off for like a different asset of a similar value?
No, I'm saying that you should package him with other stuff, like other areas of depth in your organization. Like, you talk about all those middle infielders, package a couple of them together. I just don't think it needs to be Grissom. I think you can package some of those guys together and get, like, it's not like you're asking for some major asset here. Like, you could trade Valdez for even like a rental, and I would be more or less okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about trading Grissom for Rengifo. We don't even know if the Angels would take that. As much as we like Grissom and we look at his future, you're selling low on the guy. He did not look good for his major league cup of coffee with the Red Sox. No. Does not have good reviews from Red Sox fans. So I don't know. It's tough. Valdez, I don't think he has much value at all. Grissom, it really depends how the team you're speaking with feels about him. Do they believe in the Braves version, or do they believe in what they saw with the Red Sox? I'd lean towards the former, but who knows? And then you got Hamilton, who probably brings you a lot in return, but do you really want to trade that guy? He's on fire. It's tough decisions coming up for Craig Breslow, man. My God.
Bottom line is we all agree. We would like to see the Sox get Rengifo. It's just a matter of who are they going to part with, because they're going to have to part with somebody.
I go York, honestly. If I'm trading a guy, if I had to, of all those guys we talked about, he's still in AAA, hasn't made it to the majors. He's hot. He looks better in AAA than AAA.
Rank them. If you're the Angels and you could have your choice of Grissom, Hamilton, York, Valdez, rank those guys in terms of who you would want the most. And then, Joe, I'll ask you the same thing.
Probably Hamilton, because the Angels have a shortstop in Zach Neto, so they're set there. Hamilton's the backup. He'd probably be their second baseman. He's got 21 steals. His OPS is almost 800. He's been really good. Second, I'd put Grissom, because of how he was kind of framed as a prospect. He's a guy that a lot of scouts think has a high ceiling. Red Sox and Braves both think that. Third, I'd put York, because he looks like a solid prospect in AAA now. Defense has gotten better. It's not great, but it's about average at this point. He can hit. Right-handed, more of a doubles guy. Kind of reminds me of Howie Kendrick, another Angel, a little bit. Howie Kendrick light, and then Valdez significantly below the rest of the guys. I just don't see much in Valdez. I think he hits right-handed pitching well. He can't hit lefties defense. Blah 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 blah. Could go on and on. But
I would do the same order, except I would flip York and Valdez, just because Valdez has flashed his power in the majors, and York, we haven't seen him on the major league stage. He has potential, but we just haven't seen it yet. So same order, except I flip the third and fourth.
Yeah, if you expound Valdez's numbers over like a full 162, he does have like 25 home run kind of power. So I'll give you that. It's just like, I feel like the home runs he's hit.
There you go. You just said it though. He's a kid, like, and he's already there. Like we saw the guy, like the Tigers trade for like Matt Vierling for Greg Soto, and like Vierling was terrible for the Phillies, and it's like, oh, we'll just dump off this guy who just came up and he was really bad, and now he's a really good player. Like guys get traded like that and they develop. To me, yeah. I actually have Grissom first still. I've loved what I've seen from Hamilton, but Grissom just has so much, just a higher pedigree, more proven statistics of this level in the minors and in the majors as well. Just I think his situation has just been screwed up this year. So I go Grissom, Hamilton, Valdez, and then York. I'm still not sold on Nick York. I will not be sold on him.
You got to address the issues with Valdez, though. It's not that York doesn't have any or Hamilton doesn't have any. It's just the issues with Valdez. He is so shockingly bad defensively. And this is even with the context that he's gotten better. He's gotten better defensively, and he is still one of the worst second basemen you will ever see at the major league level. I think he's right now second worst in the majors behind Luis Ariz, who doesn't even play second base anymore. So like, how much better?
No one's denying it. No one's denying it. Yeah. But it's if you're the Angels, though, you're not getting Valdez or whoever for what you're getting today. You're getting him for what you hope that you can make him into for like 2026, because they're multiple pieces away.
But that's not how it would work at the negotiating table. The negotiating table would be like what I just said. Like, this guy has glaring holes. How do we know he's going to fix it? You got Boston, you got to give us more than that. We're giving you Rengifo. Look at the numbers that Gordo just listed. Those are nasty numbers. By the way, he played.
You would give more. You would give more, though.
Yeah,
you would give. But I'm not saying.
What else? So that's the. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a great conversation. It's so hard, and this is why being a GM is the most impossible job ever. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I mean, if I'm the Angels and I'm talking to the Red Sox, I'm like, you're either giving me Hamilton or you're giving me Grissom. And I want a little bit more on top of that, because Rengifo, he's probably going to be in high demand. So you're almost definitely going to have to, quote unquote, overpay to get him, because other teams are going to want him too. It's not the Red Sox aren't going to be the only team on the market. You guys know that, but people often frame these trades as if it's the Red Sox and the Angels. They're locked in a room and they have to make a deal. Not like that.
Nope. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right, Sammy. It's going to be interesting to see what other middle infield names, maybe not even middle infield names, high speed guys, high contact guys, right-handed bats that can hit left-handed pitching. Like, we're going to see these names pop up, and we're going to talk about them on this show, because it is trade deadline season, and that is what we are going to do on Play Tessie. It's how we started with Bradfo doing Who Says No stuff, and we bring it to Play Tessie for you guys. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a month leading up to the deadline. I love that the Red Sox look like they're going to be in a position to buy. The conversations are so much more fun when it's buying, because there's a whole world of opportunity out there of guys you can buy. Sell, it's just like, okay, like what team could use your guy, and what prospects that you don't know anything about are you going to say that the Red Sox should get? It's way more entertaining this way. We had a long enough conversation. We're going to have to forego enough said on this particular episode. We usually have enough said on these episodes. We're going to have to forego it this time around. But guess what? There's going to be more of these episodes coming. The trade deadline is fast approaching in the next month. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Before you tune out, remember, hit that subscribe button, whether you're on the Odyssey app, Apple, or Spotify. Subscribe to us, rate us 5 stars, helps us out a ton. Check us out on YouTube. We're on the WEI channel. You can check out the Play Tessie playlist and hit the thumbs up on those videos. Also, remember to check us out on both Twitter and Instagram at Play Tessie. But till next time, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Trade deadline is a blast, and we will continue to keep kicking out these episodes for you guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Peace.